It sort of leads into the discussion for today. Oh, goody, we're recording. So the title that we started out with today is Surviving Christmas, which is pretty much applicable all of our year round, I think, or any year that we have Christmas. How do we stay sane? And especially in this time where we may not be going to the places we had hoped or wanted or dreamed about. And I am with you in that too, my friends. Clergy, we are here through Christmas always. And then usually we take off and we celebrate the 12 days of Christmas. And my nephews have learned I don't show up till the 26th, but I have gifts. And this year, that being tremendously different again, celebrating like we did for Thanksgiving. We had a Zoom where our entire family actually was in one space, one Zoom room, including Arizona family all the way to DC. And I'm sure you've experienced that too. Yesterday, we had a wonderful, it's a new tradition. I've decided, Father Dave, I haven't told you that, but we did an Advent hike. And it was a beautiful morning. And I realized, just like this Sunday, the third Sunday of Advent is Gaudete, it's joy. It's that moment where we sort of turn the corner to Christmas Eve as we head into the final half of Advent. And it's that time we really need to get outside our house, look up, as Father Dave started with our first Sunday of Advent, look up and look around, refocus to the bigger vision and walk. Similar to John the Baptist. He's like, come on, we're on a highway together. The path will be made straight. And it was so much fun with our little group that we had for someone who'd never seen Cascades Park together before, to small children who said, I see Christmas, where's red? And talking about the different flora and fauna they could see. We were all masked. We saw new people and said Merry Christmas as we passed them. And it was as long a walk as you wanted. But that opportunity to enjoy the outdoors, Leslie, like you are right now, Leslie Marlowe, to look up. And so hopefully next year we'll continue that Advent hike, that sort of let's breathe in deeply. It was a half-hour walk that was early enough for those who wanted to continue their day in the way that they wanted. So what I'm going to do is share my delightful screen. Hold on, I got to have the right tab presenting. Oh, yeah, we're not going to show you Bangladesh. That's the wrong tab. Gimme. Golly, you think I didn't rehearse this? I actually already did. Give me a second. I know. I love it when we record things like my confusion, because it makes me so happy. Okay, now, good night. Okay, now I'm going to share the correct screen. Yay, you'll see why it's pretty. All right, and then we're going to go to full screen. So today we're going to talk about surviving Christmas. 5 tips for your mind, your body, and your spirit. Number 1, my first tip is be gentle and merciful with yourself. We can't do it all correctly all of the time. So be gentle when you realize you can't get it all done, or you didn't do it right, or it's going out late. Be merciful with your own self, as you are doing with those around you too. The other is we have to work together. It takes a team. And sometimes we won't be able to do all that we would like. And so, as I said, this was a work in progress. Today's hymn for tip number 1 is comfort ye, your people. Those words of Isaiah that we hear in our hymn today that was sung. And that reminder from the reading of Isaiah, which was assigned to today, but we only read one of the readings. So we read from Thessalonians. But that reminder that God is here to comfort us, even as we attempt to do everything. And a piece of scripture that reminds me of this topic is not a Christmas one necessarily, but when Jesus fed the 5,000. His disciples were anxious, they were tired, they'd had a full day of ministry with Jesus, and they said, we can't do this. And Jesus looked at them and said, what do you have right there with you. It's sufficient. You'll remember the story of Andrew goes, well, I found this little guy. He's got a basket. Let's see what's in the basket. We can make that work. Can't we, Jesus? And I think in this time of COVID and restrictions and limitations, we have that opportunity to look in our basket and say, what do I have? I know in the early days of COVID, I looked back in my pantry and was like, what's in the back of my shelf? And what can I use in this space? And be creative and use up, as long as it wasn't expired, of course. But what are the things I have that I can do and that I can share? I think if we take that deep breath, be gentle, merciful with ourselves, and realize what we have in our possession is sufficient, working together, we can make this a beautiful Advent and Christmas. All right. So number 2, look at that video. Do you not love the grin and joy once she starts eating that cookie? So there is a lot of truth to the fact that we need to be remembering to eat meals and drink water. It's so simple, but sometimes we forget. We have to take time for our physical health. We have to eat our meals with vegetables, not just sugar, dumpling, plum cookies. I think she's eating gingerbread. Doesn't it look wonderful? You can eat your gingerbread, but also eat your vegetables and drink lots of water. Some of our worlds are so busy that meals are skipped and all we're drinking is Coca-Cola or coffee, and remembering to pause in the midst of that. The Christmas hymn that I want you to remember in this, if you want to remember the hymns to remind you to do things, is Away in the Manger. The cattle are lowing. It's a sweet lullaby that slows us down. And I think it's a reminder that they couldn't do anything but be in that space. Everything they had was around them. And going back to the scripture, Jesus looked at those around and fed the masses. All 5,000 were fed. He said, it's the end of the day, and this is what needs to be done. Everybody's missed a meal. Sit down, and depending on the gospel reading, he would say, sit down in rows, organized them up in their chaos, in their crazy day, and like a shepherd, fed the sheep. I think in our chaotic worlds, we forget the importance of breakfast, of lunch, and of dinner. Even if we're alone, making space for that, making time for meal preparation, and for always drinking water in the midst. Number 2, this may be a year to start a new tradition. They didn't give me a real shiny 3. Sorry for no exciting pops and wows, but you've got this beautiful plant growing. And maybe this is a year where you simplify. You modify a tradition you had. As I spoke about Thanksgiving, we gather in different ways. And this year, that new tradition was having a Zoom room for everyone to be present. We chose a time and opened it up and got to see everybody all at once. Maybe there's something you don't do this year and you let go of a tradition, recognizing that it might not have fed souls, might not have brought joy. But remembering that this year you can take that joy in a different way, giving thanks for the here and the now. When we think about the Christmas story itself, remember the manger was not where they planned to be. They looked around them and used what they had. They had not planned to deliver a child on that day. They had not planned to end up in that space. They had not planned to have shepherds arrive, or wise men, or angels, or stars. But that is what they had, and they rejoiced and they gave thanks. And if you think of scripture, remember in all of Jesus's teachings, He was taking the old and making it new. He took each tradition and stretched it to a new and different meaning, both in living out what a king looked like, in service, in teaching, in walking, not riding a mighty steed, in listening deeply and being present. He took what teachers and prophets had been saying for so long and stretched the understanding back to the original, but in that time and space, to a new tradition. Taking the old core values, the root of it all, and making it new. This year, you will hear those words again. It may or may not be where you plan to hear those words, but listen to them deeply in a new way, embracing where you find yourselves. And maybe that tradition is a new one for this year, and maybe that tradition is something new that you continue. Rob and I often listen. We do all of the Christmas Eve. His tradition is to do the last service because I'm there and I'm going to be loud when I come back to the house. And he typically ushers at that service. And then we come home and we change into pajamas and we're still awake. So we open all our presents in that space, exhausted. But it's been our tradition. This year, that tradition time will be different because of the services we're offering and choosing to see that in a new and different way. Simplify, treasure what we can do, and stretch that understanding into that love and care that Jesus is always stretching us to do and to be. Number 4, the dancing number 4. Pause. As we prepare for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, ask yourself what you need and then do that. Now, Mary Irvine, I feel your pain. You can't go up to the Hudson Valley. You can't go see those beautiful trees, which, by the way, have lost all their leaves by now. It's gray and cold. And I'm sure we're going to have a blue sky, beautiful day in the midst. So we'll treasure that too. But think about what you need to create that space, or let yourself rest in God's embrace in this space, and do that. If it's decorating the palm tree outside your house with Christmas lights because you need to see those white or colored lights, do it. But listen deeply to what is it you miss the most that could be done. And if you remember in Scripture, Jesus is always going off to pray. He's always pausing in his day. He's getting up early before people start to arrive, and he's off praying. You'll hear the disciples are always looking for Jesus. Where has he gone to? What is he up to? And he's gone off to a quiet place to pray. For some of you, morning is going to be the only time to do that. Just finding that space and being still, turning on your Christmas tree, lighting your Advent wreath, candles, or just a single candle. And maybe that time is midday at lunch, or at the end of the day, or all three, depending on what your day looks like. But remember to make space in that day to pause. I wish I could pause the bouncing forward, but it's not a reality. I'm going to let go of that. And remember, while he went off early in the day to pray, he also gives us the example of even in the most trying times, he took time with his friends to go and pray in the Garden of Gethsemane at the end of the day, when he knew the hard day was coming. He paused and he spent time in God's embrace. So remember that that is part of this season, and that you're not alone. Even if you live by yourself, there's always an opportunity to be with God and also to be with someone else in this church family as we walk along together. As you can see down here, we only have 8 slides. Oh, we went backwards. Sorry. Next one, number 5, get outdoors. Go for a walk. It doesn't have to be far. It doesn't have to be long. But one of the gifts of the outdoors, remember, Jesus walked everywhere. No mighty steed, but he was always walking from one place to the other. That breath of air, that lack of computer screen is refreshment to your mind, body, and your spirit. Play a game. I am married to one, poor Rob, he gets thrown on the bus all the time, but I'm married to someone who doesn't like to play games, but he knows that I do. So the gift of leaning into card games or guessing games, and then take time to laugh. You can look up your own silly dad jokes or silly jokes about Christmas. That opportunity to be joyful. And on this 3rd Sunday of Advent, being rejoice. And again, I say rejoice. It's not ignoring the depth of this time, both of sorrow and of joy, but it's embracing it fully. Take time to be joyful, to get outdoors. And I am reminded in the Christmas story of the shepherds who were outdoors. That was their job, tending their sheep, not sleeping, but tending their sheep. And the reminder that, again, as you look up, they heard the angels because they were outdoors. I'm not sure, you could probably miss their singing anyways. But being outdoors allows you to hear things in a different way, see God's creation in a different way, and it changes your vision. And of course, the hymn that I would assign to number 5 would be Hark the Herald Angels Sing. Joyfully, in tune, in choirs, because with a choir, you can be in tune, out of tune, but it's one large body of singing together. And that is my reminder song for being tip number 5. Listen for those choir of angels. So here are my 5 Santa tips. Pray. Pray when you need strength. Pray when you are thankful. Pray when you are caring for others. Eat, drink, be merry. Make sure that's water in there too. Drink your container of water. I'm sure there's a designated amount of ounces, and all of our medical folks can chime in the chat or in the discussion soon to begin about how much water to drink. Go outside, wear your mask, make a Santa mask. I have seen the cutest masks recently. Mary Irvine, your cat mask was the winner of all last week at 8 a.m. Be creative, take joy, and pay attention. One of the gifts of the walk yesterday was seeing so many other people and saying Merry Christmas as we were going the other direction and wishing them well. And then play, that joy of being playful. A reminder that we sing, O come, Emmanuel. And Emmanuel means God with us. God is here present with us in this time of Advent, in this Christmas season, in this community near right now as we're all in different Zoom rooms, but together and gathered and connected. In times where we are having this holiday for the first time without loved ones, or we are reminded of anniversaries and our loved ones who are not here. Living in that space, God is with us. And then the joy of those newborns in this past year, in those new beginnings and weddings that have begun, and marriages that have begun, and the opportunity for the newly baptized to celebrate Christmas in a new and different way. Those joyful moments we recognize too. God is with us. And then finally, this final slide. You may have seen this on Facebook or in social media, but it's a simple reminder that the first Christmas was pretty simple. And it's okay if ours is too. A reminder, as we are probably more simplified than we might have been intentionally so. It's been chosen for us, but that opportunity to recognize each person's joy in this space and slow down and not have to make as many decisions about which to go to and where to be. Because the one true place to be is right where you are, listening to the love of God, celebrating that birth in the same way that Mary and Joseph were surprised by Jesus's birth in that time and space. The visitors that came, which were unexpected and welcomed in, and the journey that began that starry night, knowing of the bigger vision, God being with you and redefining that path. So I invite you again this Christmas, this Advent and Christmas season, to breathe in deeply, to be reminded that we are a community together, that we are family, connected as the body of Christ, to be God with us. And perhaps so it's drinking more water for you. Perhaps it's taking a walk. Perhaps it's being just fine with the rosemary bush that is your Christmas tree versus worrying about all of the ornaments that are neatly packed and can stay neatly packed until next year. That's my message for you, my friends. Short and sweet. What thoughts, or I'm now checking the chat. Susan Ross shares that be merciful with yourself. Reminds her of wisdom shared with her previously, that we all do the best we can at that moment. Thanks, Susan. And yeah, that gift of gentleness. Sometimes we extend it more to those around us than our own selves. And we need both. What thoughts or comments or suggestions might y'all have?
Mother Abby, I have two.
Mhm.
One has to do with the first tip, and the second one has to do with the last tip. And I'll go with the last one first. You were talking about outside and listening.
Mhm.
My great grandson, who is now 6 months old, gets fretful in the house. We can take him outside.
Mhm.
If there's any leaves left, he's so enthralled in looking at those, and then he hears the birds, and it really is a pacifier for him. If 6 months old can benefit, how much more we can. And the first one, you talked about being kind to each other. On Fridays, we in Friday's small group, Wallace had given us some this versus that, like memories versus meaning and so forth. But then he got, this third one was perfection versus good enough.
Yes.
So Deacon Joe gave us his thoughts on that. And it was just, it went right along with what you're saying. I mean, we don't have to beat ourselves up. God knows who we are and what we're capable of, and that we're going to, well, he used the word bumble and fumble.
Stumble and bumble.
Yeah. So it was just real inspiring. And when you started out, I thought, oh, that recalls that wonderful discussion that he shared. Well, it's not a discussion. He was just speaking to us, but good thoughts.
Thanks, Frances. And I'll do a shameless plug that she is talking about her small group from St. John's. And if
Yes.
you have not yet been a part of a small group, Wallace Marshall, just talk to Wallace. Father Wallace will sign you up for a small group and get you in the January meetings. We'd love to have you connect with those ministries. And all three of those were from Jay Reeves' talk. I'm really just echoing Jay Reeve and his talk he did last month, right before Thanksgiving. That gift of memory versus meaning, perfection versus good enough, and measuring up versus staying connected. The importance of the meaning, staying connected, and good enough for now being the pivotal pieces. Thank you, Frances.
Mother Abby, I think I learned that lesson about good enough as opposed to perfection in my first Christmas as a parish priest. It was a small little country parish, and there was exactly three employees of the church. There was myself, there was the rector, and there was the parish secretary, whose job it was to prepare the bulletins. And I mean, it's possible, Claire could probably back me up on this, but it's possible that I might have a little perfectionist streak that extends to punctuation in publications and bulletins. And so there were typos, and there might have been a missing dash or a period here and there. And it got to the point where I desired perfection in these Christmas Eve bulletins so much that I literally drove the poor parish secretary to
It
near
wasn't a
tears.
Merry Christmas.
And I looked at her and I said, this is not a holly jolly Christmas. I need to stop this immediately. And I did. And I apologized to her. And I said, Christine, you just taught me a really important lesson. Good enough is much better than perfect. Merry Christmas. Let's go run this thing off on the copy machine. So it's such an important lesson because I think a lot of us struggle with that.
So to do alliteration, that pastoral versus perfection is important to realize too. Thank you for that. Hi, Christmas Carol. I saw you, Carol Lemley, named for Christmas. She's a Christmas Eve baby, right, Laurel? Yep, hence her name. She and John Allen can hang out and commiserate over birthdays on Christmas holidays because John shared, I don't remember what Zoom room it was, but he shared about his birthday being on Christmas and how he often forgot it was Christmas because it was well, he forgot it was his birthday because the Christmas celebrations were most of the morning. And then he'd go, oh yeah, it's my birthday too. The 23rd for Carol and the 24th for Helen. Nice. I agree, Dave. The Oxford comma is vital and important. Nobody wants to eat the wrong thing. Saves lives. Cheryl Dodd, are you in agreement? Nope, she's not an Oxford. Okay, we're going to leave that discussion for a different time. How much water, Melanie and Eric, do you know? David Wheeler probably knows if he's on this. Any designated opinion?
I'll horn in.
There's David Wheeler. I know he knows. I've seen his water jug.
Yeah, it really does depend on body size and activity level. That old business of 8 glasses a day. I don't know who came up with that. Maybe somebody who made glasses. I don't know. There's no basis for that. It really does depend on body size.
Okay.
You know, a 100-pound woman and a 200-pound man is going to be vastly different. Somebody who's completely sedentary and lives indoors versus somebody who works outdoors physically all day. You run. As a runner, you need more. Exercisers need more. People who do weight training and heavy lifting need more. So, and diet affects it too. The more protein you eat, the more water you need. So there's a couple of pretty good calculators. I think WebMD has one.
Perfect.
And I think there's one on WebMD.
Awesome. Thanks, David. So look it up. Don't be drinking just your caffeinated beverages, my friend. We need to have some water in there. Everybody should be drinking their water.
Or as Episcopalians, you know, a few of us enjoy adult beverages as well, sometimes, occasionally.
Well, not all. And that's okay too.
Speaking of adult beverages, in the Be Kind category, this month we're collecting Ensure for the elderly people in hospice. And you can drop off Ensure at the church. It's a simple thing to do, but it makes a big difference to people who are in the final days of life and gives them comfort. So it's a nice thing and easy to do. And also on being outdoors, Abby, and I'm sure you know this and a lot of others do, but we have some fantastic parks very, very close to town where you can take strolls and almost instantly be transformed from the hustle and bustle to the wilderness and to God's creation. It's really, really great parks that we have. They're a real blessing.
Thanks, Dennis. Appreciate that. Wallace, I like your comment in the chat that said he had a colleague who would quote his father, also a priest, who said, "I would rather be in relationship than be right. Strive for excellence, not perfection." Those are great words to live by. Knowing full well my red hair gets in my way sometimes. Striving to be right. I don't know why. The gift of this time. And as we celebrate the third Sunday of Advent, that deep breath of take joy, listen deeply to the comfort that's being offered in this season. And as we truly do turn that corner towards Christmas Day itself. We almost have a full week of Christmas or of Advent for. Christmas Eve this year is on a Thursday, making Christmas Day Friday. So we're pretty close to that full fourth week.
Abby?
Yeah.
This is an illustration of how I've relaxed a little bit in my expectations, or what I expect of what's good enough. Over the years, I've honed my Christmas tree decorating to what I thought was just a beautiful scheme, and I just thought it was gorgeous. And then I thought, what is the real point here? I'm missing it. And then grandchild, Blessed Lamb of Jesus, comes along, and he teaches me the real lesson, which is complete joy in the process. And the other day he was here, and I have 2 tubs of decorations, one, the real fancy ones, and one, the handmade ones from Gray's up, coming through school, and all the soft ones and the handmade ones. And so pulled out those, and it's a fairly good sized tree, as I usually get. And Mark's is not that tall yet. He's 4. And so the tree is we could only decorate it to a certain height. Yeah. And I thought, well, that's good enough. And so this is a good lesson that perfection is not important in decorating Christmas trees, but a lovely time with a little boy. Christmas carols is.
I love it, Lisa. Yep, the process instead of the end result. That process piece was the most important, that journey of decorating that tree together. I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Lisa makes me think of a time when I was, maybe it was talk last week, some of y'all's comments about Advent. I was out of seminary, I guess it was 2007, right? Out of seminary in Albany, Georgia. Single, it's my first time kind of living, well, not really first time in my own house, but I was there, full-time job, down in South Georgia by myself, no family. And really no Christmas decorations because I didn't have any. And I was going to buy that tree. And I hated decorating the tree growing up, but it's really hard to get a big tree, a real tree in your house by yourself and in the stands. It was just really I had this perfection image of how I wanted this tree to sit in this South Georgia house. And I remember just saying a lot of bad words.
Colorful words.
Yeah, as the tree sat on the back porch and I was dragging it up, needles were going everywhere. And I had to call the Papa John's guy. So he came by the house to.
Oh, what a gift.
Well, he didn't help me. He just gave me the pizza.
Oh.
And then I had some beverages that you said I shouldn't be drinking during this season. Still to get that stupid tree in the house and it leaned that way. Then it ultimately got me sick, but it was like letting go of this perfection. I was covered in sap. It was just awful. But it really also made me miss my family. I mean, it was one of those things. Sure. You need people if you're going to get a 7-foot tree by yourself. You have to have somebody help you put the daggum thing up. And I didn't know that.
There is a reason why they're always in station wagons and the whole family is involved in this.
There's a reason.
It's trauma.
One of those moments. No saw.
Oh, thanks.
What was I? I was an idiot. One of those moments.
This is Leslie. While we're on the subject of Christmas trees, it reminded me of something. When I was married, I was living in Newport Richey, and we had this house that had an entryway that went up to the second floor, and it had the floors were very high. So it was about a 30-foot entryway, and we would buy real trees to fill that up to at least the top of the stair railing. And so it was a lot to decorate, and used to get my kids involved in doing it. And that was sometimes more of a chore than a pleasure to have them involved in it because they would bicker and all that kind of stuff. But last year, my youngest daughter, who's now in her early 20s, told me, Mom, I remember unwrapping all those ornaments every year and putting them up on the tree, and it was so much fun. It's like, wow, it had an impact. So
It was
kind of, yeah. And that was the point of it, was to give them warm feelings and, make Christmas a good thing for them. So I'm glad that at least one of them had good memories of it. That's all.
We used to, and I don't know that it was intentionally a week of the year of Advent, but we always made Christmas cookies. And so all of the same cutters came out every year. We would fight over our favorite ones. Mine was the Santa Claus one. And we never frosted these cookies. We used sprinkles instead. And so why frost when you can smother it in sugar in a whole different form? And the sprinkles and the crystals. But here was the thing. My mother had a set way. All Stars had the silver balls on each point. Santa had red where his backpack was. And the trees were all green. There were designated things. I came from a very organized family. And there came a point in which we went, if you would like them that way, Mom, you're going to get to do them. We would still like to eat them. Thank you very much. And one of the traditions, those of you who know Tupperware, you remember the cake holder that is plastic over, and it was a beige bottom, right? So if you turn that sucker upside down, it is where Christmas cookies were sorted and piled, because it became an airtight container for cookies. Think about it. It's this bottomless, it's this huge container that is what our Christmas cookies were held in. I don't think my mother ever baked cakes. Well, she did for birthdays, but I don't remember that being used for cakes. That is what the Christmas cookies were stored in, airtight and rationed out. So we had some for Christmas Eve, and Santa had them too. But that gift of making cookies together. Wallace, Laurel has given you instructions on how to bring the tree in again. If you are ever by yourself, it sounds like Laurel has figured this out, wrestled it herself, and made it so. And that would definitely keep some sap out if you put it on that sheet and drag it on in. Nice job. Any other, Lisa, I loved your story, and I loved, Leslie, your sharing about what did stick. Lisa, your story of unexpected new traditions. Any other sort of unexpected joys where a tradition has changed, and because of the change, there's been sort of that epiphany or joy that has been given too?
I would like to mention we had a kind of adapting to the year thing that we've been doing, and it's the cross-country Zoom kind of thing with our family because we can't be together.
Yeah.
And this past week on Tuesday, my brother had his burial at sea, which it took almost a year because of COVID. Mm-hmm. But we decided to have one of our big family Zooms with his son and daughter, my niece and nephew out in California, plus everyone back here.
Yeah.
And, just to kind of give them some encouragement and support and that type of thing. But we ended up talking about all of these holiday memories with my brother and with my dad, and so many funny stories, and we just laughed and had a great time together. And I think about how when we were actually together, everyone's so busy either chasing after kids or preparing food or doing this, that, and the other. You're not committed to just having that time to sit and share. Mm-hmm. Having that Zoom, everyone's committed. That's the only thing they're doing is sitting and sharing and enjoying those memories. And it was really fun. So
yeah, it still feeds in its own way. Thanks, Eric. And what a tender moment to be able to encourage each other and connect and share in that way. Thank you. Francis, did you have something to share? No. Okay. No worries. No worries. I will say the surprise and reflection, similar, Eric, to what you shared, the surprise and reflection of yesterday's walk, and just that joy of, of course, today's foggy, and we have what they had in the Hudson Valley yesterday. foggy weather. But We're in Florida. That sun will be about. It'll burn off and come back either this afternoon or tomorrow. Any other stories or thoughts to cover as we end our coffee talk today? I do want to remind folks of our service of comfort and healing, which will be on Wednesday at 12:10. It will be in person and live streamed on our website and through YouTube. That, of course, is our annual service, the Wednesday before, the week before Christmas. And we'll have a beautiful, Slatina is playing the cello at that service, beautiful instrumental music, and a time to sort of pause, as I said, to reflect and lament. And as Christians, we lament with hope. We express our sorrows and the things that are different and we are sad about this year, and letting God embrace us there in that moment together in comfort and joy. And then lots of fun things coming up Sunday. Wallace, any other educational things you want to highlight before Sunday or anything like that? What am I missing?
I think that's it. Sunday.
Oh, no.
Classes.
The bookstore. This is my
Sure.
other hat. Thank you, Claire. The bookstore is open Tuesday through Friday from 11 to 2. We are volunteer. Thank you, Claire, again. We are volunteer led, which means I can't tell you if it'll be open on Saturday yet, but we hope to be open this coming Saturday. Everything is 40% off. Come and find the treasure that has been waiting for you to buy it. Cafe has a new menu.
Father
And
Dave is teaching next week on some of the more intriguing characters in Jesus's family tree, correct, Father Dave?
Yes, sir.
Do we know those names yet, or there's quite a list? So he has a.
We're gonna talk more about Ruth and Rahab and other fun folks like that.
Okay, we got a theme here. So definitely join us next week. It should be a fun time, fun conversation.
And that's all our announcements. We will see you guys back here for coffee talk. If not, in the meantime, a reminder, Lively Cafe, you can order it and pick it up to go. Lots of wonderful, tasty treats that will carry you into the weekends. And then, of course, stay tuned. You'll get an email from us on Wednesday about reservations for Christmas Eve. And we look forward to spending Christmas Eve with y'all, wherever you might be, over and over again on Christmas Eve, live streamed and in person, of course, too. God's peace be with you all. I know, I love waving on Zoom. It's so fun. Bye, Francis.